Hi, I'm Jeanette, the North End Coach. I'm glad you have joined me here today. I'm continuing the conversation around burnout and what we can do about it. In the two previous videos, I first took a look at the relationship of boundaries or a lack of boundaries to the contributions to a feeling of burnout. First, how that causes it, and then some things that we can do around it. And then last time, I took a deeper dive on the conversation around burnout that is related to having a micromanaging manager, and this sense of no control over how, when you go about doing the work, a set of expectations that are very unreasonable, perhaps in the unreasonable and changing related to those objectives, and what we might do about that, because that significantly contributes to a feeling of burnout. So discuss some potential solutions around that in the last video. I will make sure that I put a link into the series so you have a chance to check those out. Today, I want to talk about another potential element of burnout and bring that up for your consideration. And there is a relationship to the concept of the micromanaging manager, in the sense that what I bring for your consideration is this idea of control or lack of control related to the whole space of what is on your plate. Certainly, the micromanaging manager is a particular instance of this, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the lack of control is caused by that being an element. You may be burned out, in other words, without the micromanaging manager being a part of that. And what may be contributing to that sense of burnout is feeling a lack of control over what you are doing, when all of those sorts of expectations that in the beginning, you might have had more control around them. In other words, you're taking on these different projects, initiatives, work, whatever set of things that you're taking on your plate. Those were out of your, potentially they were in your control when you took them on. And then over the course of time, perhaps as you had success in these areas, those expectations turn from being kind of choice to, well, now that's a bar that's been set, and so I have to continue to do that and more. And so it just builds on itself. And what also shifts in terms of the change of this is not only the volume building, but also the way that you're interacting with those expectations, because no longer are they the expectations that you're choosing for yourself. They feel out of control in that sense. So what I want to offer for your consideration is a potential solution, something to try, to really look at how we can turn this around to a more positive direction if you're feeling these sorts of symptoms of burnout and this kind of scenario resonates with you. So the idea here is, how can we get more control over the things that we're working on? And I know it seems counterintuitive to add things when we're just feeling like, there's too much. But this is the idea, is if we can add some things in where we do have control over them into the mix, it might shift things to move everything, sort of like a log jam, that this extra pressure might push things along in a positive way, because what we're adding to the mix is not more that you don't have control, more that's coming at you. It's things that you're choosing to add in there. So these kind of things might be in the category of pleasant hobby-like things that you take on, just a sprinkling in there to start to dilute the overall the formula of what's going on in those expectations, so that that has a mix of the things that feel less in control and then more of the things that you do have control in a pleasurable way. So how can you think about adding in some of the things that really bring you joy into the set of expectations in a really counterintuitive way, but to see about kind of changing that formulation up and see if that might move things along. So that's for your consideration as an idea related to breaking out of burnout through the use of adding more things that you have control into the mix to see if that can shift things for you. If you're still feeling stuck, after you try that experiment or as you start to think through that experiment, I'm happy to spend time with you in a free, no strings attached 45-minute career strategy session. I'll drop the link to that in the description box, and we can schedule time to go about taking a closer look at your circumstances. All right, so that's it for this week. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again in another week. Take care.